Hey, what's going on? How are you? What the hell is going on? How's your face? Look, face is all right. Cool. Hey, what are you doing with the thing over there? Put it down. You might hurt a child. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know. Hey, it's me, Nick Digilio. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Daily videos almost every day. That would be daily, but almost. On my YouTube channel, subscribe. It's free. Tell everybody. More importantly, check out my Patreon page. You may be watching this video on my Patreon page because I put a lot of videos and a lot of content on the Patreon page. It's a great way for people and artists and all kinds of folks around to get their art out there, or to get their videos or their art or their music or any of that kind of stuff out there. And you can help out at patreon.com. Great way to support the arts and support people. It's patreon.com/NickDShow. You go to that page, pick a tier, donate monthly, 3, 6, 25 bucks a month, whatever you want. Every little bit helps. All of that goes to keeping this content going, to helping me out. It's a separate issue, but it also helps me to keep my podcast up and running. Helps me personally, so that I can do my podcast, which is a separate thing than all of this. But it helps. It really, really, really helps. You have no idea how much it helps. Every little bit helps. So please donate today. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Stop the video now. Go there. Patreon.com/NickDShow. And donate, and I would appreciate that. My podcast is the Nick D Podcast at the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Okay. So last night was awesome. Let me explain what I mean by that sentence. And it kind of came out of nowhere. At the last minute, I was able to score a ticket for the event that was taking place at the Harris Theater for Music and Dance down on Randolph, downtown in Chicago, right by Millennium Park. Beautiful venue, beautiful space. The Chicago Humanities Festival puts on these events, not just in that space, but all over the place. And they do amazing stuff at the Humanities. It's a great organization, the Chicago Humanities Festival. And I want to thank Stephanie Story, who is the head of PR with the Chicago Humanities Festival. They had an event yesterday called An Evening with Molly Shannon, and it was moderated and hosted by Tim Meadows, two of my favorite SNL cast members of all time. And I was working with Stephanie and the Chicago Humanities Festivals to try and get Molly Shannon on my podcast as a guest, because she's got a new memoir called Hello, Molly, which her book just came out like 2 days ago. I'm saving it. I haven't started it yet. I haven't started it yet. I'm going to start because I'm finishing up a book, a different book now. When I finish that, I want to dive into. I don't want to be distracted, so I want to dive headfirst into Molly's book, and I'm going to start that either tomorrow, Friday, or Saturday is when I'll start it. So I haven't read the book yet. I haven't started it. I'm saving it. It's special, and I want to savor it. So her book, Hello, Molly, is her memoir about her life, about her time in show business, about things that happened in her life. A horrible tragedy happened that kind of formed her as a child, as a 4-year-old. There was a terrible car accident where her mother passed away and her sister passed away. They were killed in this car accident. And so she lost her mother and a sister at a very young age, and a cousin at a very young age. And the book starts out at that point, and then kind of that event kind of shapes and tells her story and her relationship with her father and her surviving sister, and how she grew up and then ended up getting into show business. And I've not read it yet. All the reviews have been great. All the stories I've heard, all the interviews that I've seen with her. She's been doing a lot of publicity lately. She did Howard Stern's show. She was on Stephen Colbert. She's been on some of the morning talk shows. She's doing more, publicizing her book, Hello, Molly. And I wanted to get her on my podcast, but it just didn't work out. Stephanie, with Chicago Humanities Festival, went out of her way to try to get it going. But that week leading up to the release of her book, which is when I wanted to have her on for the podcast, for it to be timely to talk about the event that happened last night, it just couldn't happen. I mean, she was flying everywhere, from LA to New York to here, so it just never worked out. I'm working on getting her, Molly Shannon, on the show at some point on my podcast, and I'm working on it, and it's probably going to happen at some point. I will definitely get Molly Shannon on the Nick D podcast to talk about her book. But out of nowhere, I lucked out and I got a ticket to the Chicago Humanities Festival event, An Evening with Molly Shannon, moderated by Tim Meadows. And I went last night. And despite the fact that I got soaked to the bone because there was a typhoon in the area all evening and last night. We had horrible weather here in Chicago. Like, it was pouring. It was a monsoon. We didn't have as severe weather as they had expected, and as severe as the weather that they got in the south of Chicago. But we got some terrible, I mean, it was downpouring rain. There was some lightning, there was some thunder, but a lot of soaking, hard rain that went on for a long time. So walking from the subway to the theater, and then afterwards from the theater to the subway, was a lot of fun. But I don't care. I was soaked from head to toe, but I didn't care because I was happy, because the event was amazing. Molly Shannon I love Molly Shannon, and that's what this video is about, my love for Molly Shannon. She is my favorite female cast member in the history of SNL, and I know that, that's kind of a controversial statement, considering how many other amazing women have been on that show. And I mean, everybody goes to Gilda and the original cast, the original women that were on the cast, Jane and Lorraine, and everybody immediately yells at me because I say Molly Shannon is the best ever in the history of the show. She's the best female cast member ever. The funniest, the sweetest, did some of the most memorable characters, wonderful imitations. She was a solid player in every single sketch. You could always rely on her to be funny. Even if the sketch sucked, she was always good. In that way, she was very similar to Phil Hartman, who I think is the best cast member in the history of SNL. Phil Hartman, the best, number one best cast member in the history of SNL, is Phil Hartman. They called him the glue, and the reason why they called him the glue was because you could always count on him. And I feel the same way about Molly Shannon. You could always count on her, no matter what sketch it was, whether it was hilarious or bad, whether it was long or short. If she was in it, you knew at least one part of that sketch was going to be great. You knew at least one part of that sketch would be quality, and one part of that sketch at least would be very funny. Molly Shannon. Watching her, I got to interview her. I've interviewed her twice. I interviewed her years ago over the phone for to promote like a best of SNL thing, and then I interviewed her in person, met her, and did an interview with her, recorded it for The Year of the Dog, the movie that she did back in 2007, written and directed by the great Mike White, whom she has a fantastic relationship with and continues to work with on these years. She was just in White Lotus. She was just in that. And I interviewed her for that, and it was fantastic. And I just love her. She is bubbly and funny and honest and just so sweet. She exudes just a likability that is off the charts. She is so lovable and so sweet and so excited to talk to people, and so happy and so genuinely interested in talking with people. And she looks like she's having fun all the time, that she loves to entertain people, that she adores to make people laugh. And that energy comes off of her like, it's like she glows. She is just this orb of love and joy and absolute joy and happiness that she exudes. She's never not smiling. She's never not laughing. She's never not excited and giddy. She gets so excited, sometimes she forgets what she says. She's one of the most honest comedic performers that's ever lived. And I love that about her, the sheer, unmitigated happiness that she gets from making people laugh, and the excitement and true emotion that she feels with fans. I mean, she loves her fans. She is so good to them. She was so nice to me as a ridiculous fan. And just that kind of energy, like when she walked on stage last night. Tim Meadows, by the way, who is an unsung hero of SNL, one of the best cast members ever, had an incredibly long tenure there, was always great, very funny, had amazing, memorable characters, not even just the ladies' man, but so many more. And he's gone on to do incredible work on TV, supporting performances. He's the best thing in Mean Girls, and Mean Girls is a great movie. He played the principal in Mean Girls, Tim Meadows. Go back and watch his work go back and watch Tim Meadows in Mean Girls. It is truly one of the greatest comedic supporting performances of all time. He's fucking amazing in that movie. He's hilarious. Every single thing that he does in that movie is funny. Tim Meadows' performance in Mean Girls is phenomenal. One of the best comedic performances ever. And that's just one of the millions of great things that he does. He lives here in Chicago. He works at he worked at Second City. He's got a great connection to this city. He is an unbelievable improviser, a great writer, and a very funny guy. And they know each other and they work together on SNL. So to have Tim Meadows be the guy to moderate it and do the Q&A and conduct the interview with Molly Shannon was a stroke of genius on the part of Chicago Humanities for getting those two people together. He did a great job. He brings her out. Everybody goes nuts. I go nuts. She's jumping up and down. She's just so happy to be there. They told amazing stories about SNL, their years together, their time working together. He asked her all about the book, all about some of the stories in the book, making certain movies, being in certain things, and they concentrated a lot on SNL and the memory and the characters that they had. They talked a lot about Tim Meadows mentioned the Dr. Poop sketch, which was back, Adam McKay wrote that sketch back before Adam McKay became a fuckhead, which he is now, but back when he was really funny and really weird and wrote great, crazy sketches for SNL, him and Will Ferrell. They talked about the Dr. Poop sketch, where Tim Meadows comes in and says that he's Dr. Poop. He can do the robot. That's $5,000. It was a sketch with him, Will Ferrell, Molly, and Chris Parnell. And it's this classic sketch where they break. Like Will, except for Parnell did not break. Parnell was the only one who didn't break. But they told the story about how Tim Meadows was just told by Adam McKay 5 minutes before he went on stage, just walk out there and read whatever's on the cue card. Like he didn't know what he was. Tim Meadows had no idea what he was going to say. He had no idea what was going to happen. Will Ferrell didn't know. Molly Shannon didn't know. Chris Parnell didn't know. And he came out. He did his thing, and Ferrell lost it. He was crying with laughter. Molly Shannon was gone. Only Chris Parnell held it together. And that story that he told and Molly's memory of that sketch was one of the many incredible moments from that hour or so of grand entertainment last night. And it was so funny because that's one of the things that makes SNL so amazing is that Tim Meadows walked out on stage and did not know, in front of a live audience of millions and millions of people, live television, was told, just walk outside and read the teleprompter or read the cue cards. That's the magic of SNL. That's one of the reasons why for 47 years I've been watching the show, and for 47 years it's so special and so amazing that things like that happen. Anyway, so they told great stories, and it was an amazing night to watch Molly Shannon. And again, at one point she took off her shoes, is running around and barefoot on stage, doing imitations of Sally O'Malley and stretching and kicking. And even though she had a dress on, she was trying to hold her skirt down. She did Mary Catherine Gallagher, and you know how physical she is. And it didn't take long for her to take off her big, she had heels on, take them off, run around the stage and act like a maniac, tell great stories, and exude that joy and passion and fun that just comes out of her skin. And it was a wonderful, wonderful night. It was just one of the best hours I've had ever. I took a bunch of pictures. I couldn't have been happier. I was sitting in the second row, and it was great. Tim Meadows did a fabulous job interviewing her. She did a great job just talking and telling stories and relating with the audience and talking with the audience back and forth and having fun and, cheering and giggling every time somebody did something that she thought was funny in the audience. And she's pure joy. Which is, not ironic because she played Helen Madden, the joyologist. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. She played that character, and that's kind of her because she does love it. So I love Molly Shannon, and I can't wait to read her book. Her book is out. It's called Hello, Molly. Last night's last night's thing, part of that festival, that was about an hour and 10 minutes long, and it was one of the great hours and 10 minutes of my life. And Molly Shannon was magnificent, and she made everybody in that room happy. And I love her. So I'm going to fly down some of her movies and some of the work that she did on SNL, because I do think that Molly Shannon... So anyway, I want to talk... I got interrupted, so I don't even know. I got interrupted, something happened, and I had to take a phone call, so I had to turn off the video, and quite frankly, I forgot where I was. So I'm just going to go to her movies and start with her work on... Molly Shannon's work on movies. She's done so many amazing things in movies and TV. The Other Two, which is this great show where she plays this Hollywood star. She's hilarious on that. The White Lotus, as I've mentioned, Mike White's incredible comedy mystery drama that just took the world by storm last year. She was amazing in that, and has worked with Mike White in the past. With him in Cracking Up, she had a sitcom that he developed that bombed because Fox didn't know what the fuck to do with it, and they meddled in it too much. But she was the star of that, and I love that show. That was a Mike White thing. She was on Enlightened, the Laura Dern show that Mike White created. And she was in Year of the Dog, which I think is one of Molly Shannon's best performances. It was more dramatic. And it was about a woman who kind of has a mental breakdown, is in love with dogs. And it's this great, quirky, very Mike White. If you're familiar with Mike White's work as a writer and as a director, he's seriously one of my favorite writers on the planet. For some reason, I really, really respond to Mike White and what he writes. It's probably because I'm kind of fucked up in the head. It's probably because I have a lot of neuroses. But I respond really deeply and emotionally to the stuff that Mike White writes. Going all the way back to Chuck and Buck. He did School of Rock, as I mentioned, Enlightened, which is one of the greatest television shows of all time, in my opinion, to The White Lotus, to Year of the Dog, to Beatrice at Dinner. And it's just so I mean, the stuff that he writes is just amazing. He's a great writer and a great director, very unique in his style, and has a very distinctive voice. And he and Molly Shannon work amazingly well together. And Year of the Dog is a great piece of work from them. And they'll continue to work together. Some of the other stuff she was on, speaking of HBO stuff, she was on Divorce, that great show with Sarah Jessica Parker and Thomas Hayden Church. She was fantastic on that. She was in the Wet Hot American Summer movies, as was basically everybody of that generation of comedy and a little bit younger. She was kind of the elder stateswoman of that, you know, as the younger comedic voices came into their own. The Wet Hot American Summer movies and show on Netflix are hilarious, and she was a big part of that. She was in The Little Hours, the comedy about nuns with Aubrey Plaza and Alison Brie. Really terrific movie, and she's great in that. She was in Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. She's done a lot of really great. She's carved out a niche in the independent film world. You know, she's made Hollywood movies, and she's been in a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. But she's also done great work in independent films, which brings me to the great film Other People, for which she won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Actress. And an incredible, by the way, one of the greatest acceptance speeches of all time. Look up Molly Shannon's acceptance speech for when she won the award, the Independent Spirit Award for Other People. Look that up. Again, joy, happiness, unbelievable gratitude and excitement, and being proud of what she did. Her work in Other People is magnificent. It's a serious movie. She plays a woman dying of cancer, a mother who's dying of cancer. And it's an extraordinary performance. Not only can she do comedy, but she can do drama. And because of the sort of traumatic stuff that happened to her early in her life, I think that's what makes her work, both in comedy and drama, so poignant. There's, in all the characters, no matter how outrageous they are, there is a sense of poignancy in all of them. And Other People, she's amazing in that movie. If you've not seen her, amazing. She was in the TV show Kath and Kim, which everybody hated, but I liked. It was her and Selma Blair. She was had a small part in Marie Antoinette. She was in Never Been Kissed. The SNL movies that came out in the late 90s, early aughts. She was in Night at the Roxbury. She was like the love interest for Will Ferrell in that, and she's hilarious and really sexy in that movie. Whoo, is Molly Shannon sexy? Night at the Roxbury, you know, about the Batabi brothers and those guys. Very funny movie. She's very funny in it. She was in a return to Two Moon Junction, which is like a softcore, like cable porno softcore movie. And Tim Meadows tells this hilarious story. He told this hilarious story about how he was getting ready to watch this softcore movie, and he was about to, do a little self-gratification when he noticed that Molly Shannon was in it, and he had just started working with her on SNL. Now, she wasn't in the dirty stuff. Molly Shannon played like a small supporting role. Didn't have any sex scenes or didn't have any, but like he told this story to Molly while they were talking. Like he's like, I'm about to jerk off to this softcore porn movie, and all of a sudden, boom! There's Molly Shannon. There's the woman I work with every week on Saturday Night Live. What is she doing? And she ruined the whole masturbation session for him. So, great story. I didn't tell it nearly as funny as he did, and they did last night. And then there was Superstar, obviously, the movie that was made from the character Mary Catherine Gallagher. The movie's not great, but she's great in it, and there are funny moments in it. Early Tom Green, by the way. Goatee-less, beardless Tom Green is in that movie. What else? Let's see if there's anything else in them. Talladega Nights, she's the funniest thing in Talladega Nights. She's got an incredibly funny supporting performance in that movie. Absolutely hilarious. And, when she started out, she did small work. She got a part on Twin Peaks because she did this scam on the phone where she pretended that she worked for David Mamet. It's a long story. It's in her book that I understand, but she told the story on Colbert the other night about how she basically got a very small role in Twin Peaks because she scammed people into thinking that she worked for David Mamet. It's a long story. But she was in Twin Peaks. Right before she got SNL, she has a classic role in Seinfeld. She plays the woman, the co-worker of Molly Shannon, or of Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Elaine's co-worker, who doesn't move her arms. She has her arms at her side, and when she walks, she doesn't move her arms. She just moves, and then she goes nuts and starts leaves a crazy message on Elaine's voicemail, and then goes nuts and knocks everything off of her desk like this. So that was Molly Shannon, one of her first roles right before she got SNL. She was the girl who didn't swing her arms in Seinfeld. But then she got SNL, and as I've said, the greatest female performer in the history of SNL. The characters that she did, Terry Rialto from Delicious Dish, her and Anna Gasteyer as the NPR host, classic. You've got Sergei Nightshade, who was part of Goth Talk with Chris Kattan, and they played those teenage goth people. Azrael Abyss was the character that Chris Kattan played. There was that from Goth Talk. There was Helen Madden, the Joyologist, as I mentioned. Oh, I love it. Fantastic character. Miss Colleen, as part of Dog Show with her and Will Ferrell, and her dog Rocky Balboa. And Will Ferrell played the co-host of Dog Show. Dog Show! And he played Mr. David Larry, and his dog was... her dog was Rocky Balboa, and his dog was Mr. Bojangles. Dog Show, hilarious, weird, and then you got Sally O'Malley. I'm 50. I can stretch, I can kick, I can stretch. Sally O'Malley, one of the greatest characters in the history of SNL. One of my favorite Molly Shannon characters, maybe my favorite Molly Shannon character of all time. When I interviewed Molly Shannon back in 2007 for Year of the Dog, she told me exclusively. She's like, look, they just asked me to host SNL. Coming up in May. Is there anything you want me to do? And I said, you got to do Sally O'Malley. So I like to think that she did Sally O'Malley for me when she hosted. So she came back and hosted, and it was about a month later she hosted. And they did Sally O'Malley, and it was maybe the funniest Sally O'Malley. It was when she auditioned at the Bada Bing for The Sopranos. When Sally O'Malley auditioned, I got my camel toe. You can look at my camel toe. And that's when she hosted. That's the one time she did Sally O'Malley in The Sopranos. So anyway, Sally O'Malley, one of the greatest characters, and then Mary Catherine Gallagher, one of the funniest, one of the most endearing, one of the most weird, just strange-ass characters ever. Mary Catherine Gallagher, Superstar, the physicality of her knocking stuff over and falling into chairs, and the whole smelling the armpit thing, and the character is so obsessed with TV movies and monologues, and I adore Mary Catherine Gallagher. One of the most endearing and one of the greatest characters in the history of SNL. And she's got, a ton of them. I just went down. Sally O'Malley, Terry Rialto, Helen Madden, Mary Catherine Gallagher, Miss Colleen. And then not to mention not only those characters, but the celebrities and imitations that she did. She was fucking hilarious as Courtney Love. She played Anna Nicole Smith. She played Monica Lewinsky during that stretch. And they were on the air when the whole Lewinsky thing happened. She was part of the cast at that time. She's played Gwen Stefani, Tori Amos, Meredith Vieira. Her Meredith Vieira is hilarious. She's played Liza Minnelli, Tia Leone, Gillian Anderson. She's played Michelle Kwan, Bjork, and Madonna. And she's been a part of, classic sketches and wonderful things. The Fanatic episode, where she played Anna Nicole Smith, where Ben Affleck was the host, and it was part of that MTV show that they used to do called Fanatic, where they would have a real fanatic fan meet one of their celebrity idols. And Ben Affleck played this guy who was obsessed with Anna Nicole Smith. Brilliant. If you can find it, Ben Affleck, Fanatic episode, Anna Nicole Smith, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. So she's worked with my favorite filmmaker. So directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, you should find that. And she also did this show called Leg Up, where Sherry O'Terry played Debbie Reynolds, and and Molly Shannon played Ann Miller, and they were like the old hoofers. And they had the big wigs, and they wore they talked about show business and how they used to do crazy things with Sinatra, and they would do musical numbers and kick their legs. It was called Leg Up with Ann Miller and Debbie Reynolds. Ann Miller, by the way, hated it. Did not make it private that she hated it, and Molly Shannon felt kind of bad because Ann Miller hated it. She didn't mean any harm, by the imitation, but Ann Miller fucking hated it. And Ann Miller was kind of she was old and mad at that time. So in addition to all of these great imitations and all of these amazing characters that she did and all of the indelible stuff that she did on SNL, because this is classic stuff, in the 47 years of SNL, she has provided some of the best, most memorable, and most, the stuff that she did on that show will live forever. So she's great on SNL. Go back and watch her work, all the imitations, all the great characters. She's great in movies. Go back and see Year of the Dog if you haven't seen that. Go back and see Other People if you've not seen that. Her work on all the TV that she's been doing recently, and she'll be back for White Lotus and some of the other stuff that she's been doing on TV. And she's just doing the tour right now on talk shows promoting her book. If you get a chance to see her being interviewed, if you get a chance to see her live, if you get a chance to see anything that Molly Shannon does, it is a fucking gift. It's always great. It's always joyful. It's always funny. She is just pure joy. I love her. She's one of those people that as soon as I see her, I feel better. If my life sucks, if things are terrible, if I'm in the worst fucking mood ever, if horrible things are happening around me and to me, there is always one person that I can count on, and that person is Molly Shannon, to bring me out of the funk, to make me laugh my ass off, and to make me feel good. She makes me feel joy. She makes me feel good, and because she exudes that. She's incredibly gifted, unbelievably talented, insanely funny, weird, awesome, and I love her to death. I adore her. And that evening that I went to last night, I was soaked to the bone. It took a long time to get there. The train was delayed afterwards. It was a pain in the ass to get down there. And while I was there, I was never happier. Tim Meadows, amazing. Molly Shannon, incredible. One of the best nights I've had in a long time. And my thank you to Stephanie at the Chicago Humanities Festival for swinging the ticket. And her book is Hello, Molly. It's out there now. I will start it tomorrow, and I'll give you a full report. And I'm going to talk about this on my podcast, which you should download and subscribe to now, radiomisfits.com. So anyway, Molly Shannon, I love you very much, and I'm working on getting her on my podcast, and I'll keep you posted on that. Hello, Molly is the book. I love you, Molly Shannon.